Right now, you are probably spending an incredible amount of your daily mental energy trying to solve a problem that is, well, biologically impossible to fix.
Yeah. Which is other people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Other people. We burn so much cognitive fuel trying to manage the unmanageable. Like you replay those frustrating conversations in your head.
Oh, constantly.
Right. Lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to script out exactly how you can alter a coworker's attitude or, fix a family member's bad habits. You try to engineer the world around you so that you can finally feel at peace. And you just end up completely exhausted.
It is a phenomenal waste of human bandwidth. I mean, it really is. And the tragedy is we do it because our brains are fundamentally wired to believe that control equals safety.
Like if I manage this, I'm safe.
Right. If we could just control the variables, we won't get hurt.
Yeah.
But the math on that, it never actually works out in our favor.
It never does. And that biological friction is exactly what our mission is for today's deep dive. We are exploring a massively viral concept from Mel Robbins called the let them theory.
Yes. This is such a brilliant framework.
It really is. We've gathered a huge stack of sources, so transcripts from her audiobooks, various interviews, deep dive lectures, just to understand why this hardwired need to control others is basically bankrupting our mental peace.
And it resonated with so many people.
Oh, incredibly. This concept hit like 14 million views in a single week when she first shared it on Instagram.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's been translated into 63 languages, so clearly it struck a global nerve.
Well, the sheer scale of that response tells us something really important. This isn't just, a catchy internet phrase. It is a profound psychological tool for emotional regulation and boundary setting.
Yeah.
It addresses a fundamental human struggle that transcends culture and language, really providing a tactical way to step out of that exhaustion you just described.
Right. And I think we should probably start by drawing a hard line between the let them theory and the typical advice we all get to just let it go.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Huge difference.
Because if I'm being honest, when someone tells me to just let it go after I've been wronged, it is deeply infuriating.
Yeah, it feels super dismissive.
It really does. It feels like I'm just supposed to pretend it didn't happen.
Well, it feels dismissive because it often requires you to swallow your own totally valid emotions. As the psychological literature points out, forcing yourself to just drop an injustice or a frustration,
Yeah.
it can leave you feeling like a doormat.
Yes. Like you lost.
Exactly. You feel defeated by the situation, you're absorbing the blow and demanding nothing of yourself in response.
But let them functions on a totally different wavelength. It isn't passive acceptance, it's an active detachment.
Right.
There's this fantastic metaphor in the research from Dr. Amy Johnson that really crystallizes this. She describes our urge to control someone else's behavior as being in a tiny boat, furiously paddling upstream against a raging current.
Oh, I love this visual.
It's so good. You are sweating, you are exhausting your muscles, and you aren't actually moving forward. The let them theory is the physical act of dropping the oars.
Yeah, you just stop fighting the current.
Exactly. You just allow the boat to naturally turn around and float downstream.
The relief in that visualization is just palpable. When you drop the oars, you aren't ignoring the river,
Yeah.
You are just acknowledging the reality of the current. You stop fighting the laws of physics.
Yeah.
In human terms, when you say, let them be grumpy, or let them misunderstand my intentions, or let them wear the inappropriate shoes, you are acknowledging the reality of their autonomy.
And you actually get this slight, satisfying jolt of superiority from it.
You do.
It's like treating other people's drama as a spectator sport instead of running onto the field to play in the mud with them. You see the person acting out and you consciously choose to remain in the bleachers.
Yeah, that active detachment is a powerful first step, but it is critical to understand that it's only half the equation.
Right, there's more to it.
Right? Because if you only say, let them, and stop there, you risk becoming avoidant. You just check out of life entirely.
Which isn't the goal.
No, not at all. The crucial second half of this psychological tool requires 2 more words to complete the circuit, which is let me.
Let me. Okay, so let them is the boundary you draw around other people, and let me is the boundary you draw around yourself.
Exactly. You are taking total responsibility for the only 3 things in the known universe that are actually within your direct control.
Which are?
What you think, what you do or don't do, and how you process your own emotions. Everything else is the river.
Oh, wow. Okay, so let them be angry, but let me decide if I want to stay in the room and listen to it.
Yes.
Let them gossip about the neighbors, but let me decide who I want to spend my Saturday afternoons with.
You got it. It instantly moves you from reacting to their chaos
Yeah.
to responding with your own agency.
It's a complete pivot back to your own power.
It is, and we need that pivot constantly because our daily minor annoyances are quite literally draining our energetic reserves. We don't tend to realize that our emotional bandwidth is a finite currency.
The sources actually have this brilliant exercise to prove exactly that. It's called an energy audit.
Oh, this is a great exercise.
Yeah, so imagine if you had to physically pay $1 for every single thought you had about someone else's behavior. Or like every time you tried to guess what they were thinking about you.
Right, just pulling a dollar bill out of your wallet and handing it over.
Handing it over, most of us would be entirely bankrupt before we even got to lunch.
Oh, easily.
Nah.
We hemorrhage that currency in the most mundane situations. And the literature uses a classic, universally relatable scenario for this, the grocery store.
Oh, yes. This is the ultimate testing ground.
Yeah.
You're in a checkout line. It's like 6 people deep, and there's only one cashier working.
Naturally.
And the person in front of you is moving at a glacial pace, paying in exact change. The stress wave hits immediately. You start huffing, shifting your weight, thinking about how poorly managed the store is, fully believing that you, personally, could run the supermarket better than the current manager.
Yes. Let's look at the physiological mechanics of what is happening in your body in that checkout line.
Okay, let's unpack this.
You are experiencing what's called an amygdala hijack.
An amygdala hijack.
Right. The amygdala is the brain's ancient threat detection center. Its job is to keep you alive in a dangerous world. But in our modern environment, it suffers from a massive evolutionary mismatch.
How so?
Well, it constantly misinterprets minor social irritations, like a slow line, someone cutting you off in traffic, maybe a passive-aggressive email, as actual physical threats to your survival.
Wait, so your brain literally thinks the slow cashier is a tiger in the bushes?
From a biochemical standpoint, yes. Your body doesn't know the difference.
That is wild.
It floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline, your heart rate spikes, your peripheral vision narrows, your muscles tense up to prepare for a physical fight that is never going to happen.
Wow.
You are burning massive amounts of biological energy over a situation you cannot change.
But this is where the tool intercepts the biology, right? You actually have a choice in that line. You can let the amygdala win and burn through your cortisol, or you can drop the oars. Let the store be horribly understaffed. Let the line be slow. Let the guy pay in pennies.
Yeah, you just release the muscular tension.
And then the pivot. Let me use these 3 minutes to practice lowering my heart rate. Let me listen to a podcast, or, let me text a friend I haven't talked to in a month.
You reclaim the moment by starving the amygdala of the panic it's looking for. And this energetic reclamation, it applies heavily to social anxiety too, which is another massive drain on our dollar per thought budget.
Oh, for sure.
There's an incredible insight in the material from the pioneering sociologist Charles Horton Cooley. This was written all the way back in 1890.
1890?
Yeah. He observed, and this is a quote, "I am not what I think I am. I am not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am."
Wow. I mean, that sounds incredibly profound for 1890. But applying it to today, it's basically the modern equivalent of drafting a text message, deleting it 5 times, swapping out the punctuation, and then staring at the read receipt trying to engineer how the recipient will perceive your tone.
Yep, exactly.
We are constantly living in a perception of a perception.
We exhaust ourselves trying to curate and control an illusion. The average human being experiences roughly 70,000 thoughts a day.
That's a lot of thoughts.
Right, and you can barely wrangle your own 70,000 thoughts. So the idea that you can reach into someone else's mind and control their perception of you is, well, it's biological arrogance.
Biological arrogance. I love that.
So saying, let them think bad thoughts about you becomes one of the most liberating applications of this theory.
Okay, but applying this to a slow cashier or a misread text message makes total sense. The stakes are basically 0. But if you take that same mindset into a hostile workplace, aren't you just rolling over?
How do you mean?
Like, if a coworker is constantly stealing credit for my ideas in meetings, or a client is screaming at me across a counter, doesn't saying, let them just make me a target for abuse, am I just accepting it?
Oh, I see. No, the sources draw a very firm, non-negotiable line here. Let them is absolutely not a mandate to stay silent in the face of harm, toxicity, or injustice. The psychological goal isn't submission.
Okay. What is the goal then?
The goal is data collection.
Data collection.
Yes. It means letting their behavior reveal exactly who they are without you absorbing their toxicity as your own emotional stress.
Oh, I get it. So they take the credit, and instead of losing my temper in the meeting, I use that data to map my exit strategy.
Exactly. Let them show you their complete lack of integrity. Let them reveal that the company culture is broken. That's the data collection.
Right.
And the let me is where your boundary is aggressively enforced. Let me document every single project I contribute to from now on. Let me escalate this to human resources with a paper trail. Let me update my resume and find a healthier work environment.
So you refuse to let the abuser control your internal emotional state, which leaves your intellect sharp enough to plan your strategic response.
Precisely. You don't lose yourself in their chaos.
That makes so much sense. It takes the frantic emotion out of the conflict so you can actually maneuver.
Yeah.
But, it's one thing to let a stranger in a grocery store mismanage a checkout line or to strategically manage a toxic coworker. The amygdala hijack we just talked about gets infinitely more intense when the person making the mistake is someone whose DNA you share.
Oh, absolutely. Family dynamics change everything.
How does this apply to family? Because with the people we love, the urge to control is almost always disguised as care.
Yeah, family is the ultimate crucible for this theory. When we see a child, a spouse, or a sibling making an obvious mistake, our primal instinct is to jump in front of the car to save them.
Of course. We love them.
But if we really analyze our own motives, we are often just managing our own anxieties about their situation rather than actually helping them grow.
There is this highly relatable story in the sources about the host's son, Oakley, that perfectly illustrates this.
Oh, the prom story.
The prom story. So it's the night of his high school prom, and it is a torrential downpour outside. Just an absolute monsoon.
The worst possible weather for prom.
Right. And this group of teenagers, all dressed up in tuxedos and expensive long gowns, decide their grand pre-prom dinner plan is to go to a place called the Avocado Pit, which is a tiny, fast casual taco joint roughly the size of a single garage stall.
Yeah, a logistical and aesthetic nightmare for a formal event.
Oh, completely. And the mom immediately goes into a frantic fix-it mode. Like, you can't go there, you don't have reservations, your dates are going to get soaked in the rain, I'm going to call a nice Italian restaurant down the street and get you a private room.
She is grabbing the oars and paddling upstream with everything she has.
Yes, until her daughter looks at her and says, "Mom, let them. It's his prom, not yours."
And that phrase acts as a circuit breaker. She realizes that by trying to architect the perfect, dry, idealized night, she is actually inserting her own anxiety into their experience. She steps back, and the kids end up having a hilarious, memorable, messy time eating tacos in the pouring rain.
It really exposes the razor-thin line between helping and enabling, doesn't it?
It really does.
The sources make a great distinction here. Helping takes two people. If you're trying to help someone and they aren't actively participating and accepting the help, it instantly flips to enabling.
Yeah, and the psychology of enabling is insidious because it feels like love.
It's like trying to lift weights for someone else.
Yeah.
You are in the gym, sweating, straining, doing all the heavy lifting, completely exhausted, and you think you're doing them a massive favor, but their muscles are actually atrophying because you absolutely refuse to let them lift the bar themselves.
That is a highly accurate way to visualize it. Dr. Robert Waldinger from Harvard Medical School, who directs the longest-running study on human happiness and adult development, he speaks directly to this mechanism.
What did he say?
His clinical insight is that we should rarely shield people from the natural consequences of their own choices. The human brain learns through friction. Sometimes a person desperately needs to feel the sharp sting of a bounced check or the embarrassment of a failed test in order to wake up and actually change their behavior.
Okay, but if you're listening to this right now and thinking, but if I don't remind my partner to pay the bills, they'll default. Or if I don't micromanage my teenager, they'll fail out of school.
Right. The stakes feel too high.
Exactly. Well, the sources offer a very specific tactical intervention for loved ones who are stuck. It's called the ABC method. Let's break down the mechanics of this, starting with A for apologize, which, I'm sorry, seems completely backwards. If they're the ones making the mistake, why on earth are we apologizing to them?
It sounds totally counterintuitive, I know, but neurologically, it is a brilliant first move.
How?
Apologizing immediately disarms the ego's threat response. When you say, "I'm so sorry I've been nagging you about your grades," or "I apologize for constantly lecturing you about your finances," you interrupt the script they are expecting.
Oh, so they're waiting for a fight and you don't give them one?
Right. Their defenses drop.
Yeah.
Which allows you to move to the ask phase. You ask an open-ended question like, what do you want to do about this situation, if anything?
And their answer almost doesn't matter in that moment, right? It's not about getting a detailed life plan from them. It's about forcing them to hold the responsibility. You are creating friction in their own mind between where they currently are and where they want to be.
Exactly. You are handing the barbell back to them. Which brings us to B. Back off.
Back off.
This is the pure let them phase.
Yeah.
You have to give them the physical and emotional space to actually feel that friction. If you swoop back in to save them, you completely ruin the process.
Yeah, you have to let them feel the weight.
And finally, C. Celebrate. You celebrate any small, independent change they make while quietly modeling healthy behavior yourself.
The sources pull in a quote from Dr. Stuart Ablon at Mass General Hospital that completely shifted my perspective on this. He says, "People do well when they can."
It is a profoundly empathetic lens.
It really is.
When someone we love isn't changing, we naturally judge it as a moral failing. We think it's a lack of willpower, or worse, a lack of love and respect for us.
Yeah, we take it personally.
But Ablon's research suggests it is almost always a lack of skill or a lack of emotional readiness. They quite literally cannot do better in that specific moment.
Wow.
Trying to force them with anger or control only breeds deep shame. You have to create a supportive environment, step back, and let them collide with the reality of their situation.
Sometimes letting them means letting them fail so they can learn. But the sources take this one step further into, honestly, the most painful territory of all.
Yeah, the hardest part.
Sometimes let them means letting them completely walk away. We have to look at the ultimate application of this theory. What happens when relationships fundamentally break down and someone exits your life?
This is where the theory shifts from managing annoyances to surviving real grief. And the research offers a remarkably practical, clinical lens for navigating it. Let's look at friendships first.
Okay.
The sociological data points out a massive structural shift that happens as we age. In your teenage years, friendship is essentially a group sport.
A group sport, right.
You are surrounded by people your exact age, placed in the same building, experiencing the exact same developmental milestones at the exact same time.
Right, it's effortless.
But in your 20s and beyond, friendship shifts into an individual sport.
The great scattering. Everyone goes in wildly different directions, different careers, different cities, different family structures.
Exactly. And the research outlines 3 core pillars of adult friendship that have to be maintained: proximity, timing, and energy.
And the time investment required to build those pillars is staggering. Sociological studies show it takes roughly 70 hours of interaction to make a casual friend, and upward of 200 hours to cultivate a close friend.
Yeah, it's a huge investment.
And that isn't just 200 hours of sitting in the same room. That's 200 hours of vulnerability, shared mundane moments, building real trust. So if we spend 200 hours building a connection and then the friendship starts to fade, it feels like losing a massive investment. How do we just let them drift away without feeling like we've wasted a piece of our lives?
Well, the key is understanding that the decay of a friendship is rarely a personal indictment. Usually it just means one of those 3 pillars, proximity, timing, or energy, has structurally shifted.
Like their career demands more energy.
Right, or their timing is consumed by a new baby. Let them drift. The pain you feel isn't a signal that you failed. It is simply a signal that your nervous system is grieving the loss of a familiar pattern.
Wow.
Holding on to someone who doesn't have the capacity to stay only traps you in a dynamic that no longer exists. You become a ghost, haunting your own present life.
Which brings us to the heartbreak protocol. When a romantic partner leaves you or explicitly breaks up with you, the sources are militant about how to handle it. You have to initiate a 30-day zero contact rule.
Zero contact, no exceptions.
No photos, no location tracking, no checking their social media stories from a burner account. Absolute silence.
Yeah, it is treated by psychologists exactly like an addiction withdrawal.
Really?
Yes,
Yeah.
because neurologically, love and attachment utilize the same reward pathways in the brain as substance dependency. Every single time you check their social media, you are firing the old neural patterns associated with that person. The saying goes, neurons that fire together wire together.
Oh, man. So by looking at their profile, you are actively strengthening the connection you're trying to break.
You are resetting your healing clock back to 0 every single time you
You
click.
have to starve the pathway to break the habit. And the neurological timeline on this is fascinating. The data shows that if you actually adhere to the zero contact rule, 71% of people start to feel a significant drop in their grief by the 11-week mark.
Yeah, 11 weeks is roughly the biological time it takes for those neglected neural pathways to begin decaying.
That's amazing.
The brain acts like a gardener, pruning away the connections that are no longer being used. But if you are cyberstalking them, you are watering dead vines.
Watering dead
You
vine.
have to let them leave so that your nervous system can physically unlearn them.
It all comes back to a concept the sources call the juiciest peach.
Ah, yes.
I love this one.
You can be the juiciest, ripest, most perfect peach in the entire world, and there is still going to be someone out there who fundamentally hates peaches.
Exactly.
You cannot control their palate.
You cannot engineer desire or loyalty. Let them hate peaches. Let them walk away. Let them construct a narrative where you are the villain in their story if that's what they need to do to move on.
It is the ultimate release. You let them reveal exactly who they are, and you let yourself move forward without carrying the weight of their choices.
The energetic freedom that comes from that realization is life-changing. You stop trying to manipulate the world to soothe your own anxieties, and you start focusing your energy on navigating reality as it actually is. So, to recap the mechanics of this incredible tool for everyone listening, Let Them is your strategy for emotional detachment. It is how you protect your limited cognitive energy, how you stop trying to manage the unmanageable, and how you allow the people around you to face the natural friction of their own choices.
Perfectly said.
But the magic only happens when you finish the circuit. Let Me NC is where you reclaim your agency. It is where you decide how you will think, how you will enforce your boundaries, and what you will do next.
It is a complete reorientation from external desperation to internal control.
We've spent this entire deep dive unpacking how giving up the illusion of control over others frees up an immense amount of your mental bandwidth. But I want to leave you with this final thought to mull over.
Yeah.
If you spend your entire life obsessing over the script for everyone else's behavior, trying to direct their choices and manage their perceptions, you are essentially choosing to live as a supporting character in their grima. If you finally drop the pen and let them be exactly who they are, what are you going to do with the terrifying, beautiful freedom of finally having to write your own story?